Let's call the Highland Village Community Development Corporation meeting for May 11th to order. Let the record reflect that all members are present. Item number 2.
Aren't we missing Mike?
No.
Huh?
Mike Sadalko.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Isn't he supposed
Correction.
to, isn't he on here? Right.
He's not here.
Yes,
Sorry. Didn't even have his nameplate up, did you?
no.
So y'all did it on purpose. Okay. All members but Mike Sadeko here. Item number 2, any visitor comments today?
Pat.
Okay. Thank you. Number 3, consider approval of the minutes from the regular Community Development Corporation meeting held on April 13th, 2026.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Motion made. Second, anyone? Second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passed. Item number 4, receive an update on the Village Connection FM 407 corridor and amenity project. Mr. Phil.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
You bet. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Really well.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to read off the agenda briefing here.
Okay.
The background, Half Associates and staff, which are here tonight, and they'll come up here and introduce themselves, are presenting information on 3 options as requested by the board at the October 23rd regular meeting. Information will include, but is not limited to, visual aids, opinion of probable construction costs, and other information, which include options in phase 1. Number 1 is fill in the sidewalk gaps along FM 407 and Highland Village Road to the Walmart Market Trail. Number 2, construction with full-width shared youth path from Highland Village Road to Walmart and Market Trail. And number 3, construct Unity Park Trail connection from Highland Village Road to Briar Hill Boulevard adjacent to the Kansas City Railroad. So the budgetary impact, these 3 options fall under the current agreement with HAF in terms of the planning portion of it. They will go into the budget options for each one of those phases. So if the board decides to add additional scope to HAF's already agreement that we have with them, staff will request a quote from HAF and bring it to the board for discussion and consideration. So we are looking later tonight after discussion to provide us with a recommendation on which options to pursue for grant funding and design if we get to that point, okay? So if there's not any questions, I'm going to go ahead and bring, yes, sir.
Sorry, just to be clear, options 1 and 2 are variations of the same alignment, right? Just different sections?
Correct. They're widths, and they'll go through that. They have designs up here.
But option 3 is sort of a separate design altogether. I just wanted to be
Correct.
clear.
That is correct.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Come on up. So I don't know if you remember how to use that. Just forward. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Phil. Good evening, everyone. Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah. Perfect, okay. So my name is Kevin Grumwalt with Half Associates. We'll be presenting tonight on the FM 407 trail corridor, as well as the alternative analysis for the 3 alignments, as Phil mentioned, and then some of the grant funding strategies there. So tonight we'll meet the team, or reintroduce the team really, kind of give some background on the project that we've done to date. We'll go over the alignment alternatives analysis, and then we'll get into grant competitiveness study, recommendations, and then finally next steps to move forward. So like I said, my name is Kevin Grumwalt. I've been with HAF 12 years, my whole career. I'm a public works team leader. My background is mostly in municipal infrastructure, but I've worked on parks, trails, and a lot of amenities type centers within the DFW Metroplex. What I have with me tonight is Liz Range-Pendle. She's our senior team leader with funding resources. She performed the grant funding assessment, and we'll be discussing the recommendations and analysis on the 3 options tonight. Some of our our planning and landscape architecture folks are not here with us tonight, but James Kindred was the senior project manager on this. He performed the opportunities and constraints map, as well as some of the initial planning, as well as his cohort Priya Katok, another landscape designer at HAF. So. All right, so getting into the background, sort of our discovery phase and opportunities constraints map. So I did want to, at the very earliest at least, introduce to y'all what this map is. So this is a map of the North Central Texas Council of Governments VeloWeb for their trail systems. You can see we've highlighted Highland Village here, but two things to consider with this map is that there's a main trail corridor that goes through the FM 407 right-of-way, and then another planned corridor that goes through the Kansas City Railroad, which is now the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad, going straight through the heart of Highland Village. So a couple proposed and planned trails that the NICCOG VeloWeb has addressed. Yes, sir.
Can you back up just 2 steps and say
Yes.
that again? That the VeloWeb, you've got a trail that runs along 407. Is that it?
Yes, so that's with NICCOG's proposed VeloWeb and their plans. So one of the trails goes through the southern boundary of Highland Village, and then the other corridor, which you can somewhat see here going from northwest to southeast, that is through the CPKC, or the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad
Splitting
right-of-way.
Highland Village.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
another potential VeloWeb? Is that what that is?
These are all under the same VeloWeb. So this is their master plan trail system for the Metroplex.
Okay.
But to be clear, it's proposed future.
Proposed
long-term.
future, there are pieces of this VeloWeb that have already been installed in other municipalities, but this is really, the portion that I want to key in on here is here. This is the area within Highland Village that has not been fully built out yet.
Okay, sorry, and I forgot my glasses. What's the line that's dashed black and orange?
The dashed line is the Texas Tourism Bike Route, which roughly runs along I-35. I forget where it ends, but it goes up to Denton and down to Dallas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So just wanted to kind of reintroduce to y'all sort of the implications of what this map has. Yes, ma'am.
And these maps are not set in stone. They're regional, and they're suggestions for the communities that they can or can't adopt. So as a city, we make them for our own, but the COG is an idea. It's not, you have to do this, so just keep that in mind.
Right, and you can recommend revisions, anything that perhaps the city or town would need to change to these maps can certainly be brought to NICCOG, as Ms. Hurst mentioned. So yeah, definitely not set in stone, but goes a long way with initial grant pre-positioning and items of that nature. So yes. Any other questions before I move on to the next one? Okay, perfect. All right, so what we've done to date, we provided a connections, opportunities, and constraints map. This was brought to the board and the Parks Board at the August 4th, 2025 meeting, so it has been some time. But our intent with this initial map was really to analyze multiple trail routes, not just the 3 that we have shown today, but roughly 8 total trail routes that we explored. We wanted to kind of get some site investigation on and get some thoughts in terms of would these trails be at all potential for grant funding. So that's kind of the initial map that we provided. And this was the kind of final deliverable of that map. So as you can see, multiple regions and areas and routes throughout the city, addressing amenities, addressing the NICCOG VeloWeb, addressing potential trail connections to interlocal facilities in Louisville and Flower Mound, things of that nature. So this is what was presented then. And from this information, we narrowed down sort of the further analysis and the schematic phase that we are now in to the FM 407 trail in that route, and then the railroad or the Trails on Rails program route that connected not only within the NICCOG VeloWeb, but also to Unity Park. So those are kind of the 2 main options that we're going to go over, with the FM 407 option having sort of 2 sort of sub options within those. All right, so getting into the alignment alternatives analysis. So as kind of briefly discussed by Phil at the beginning here, we have option 1, which is our sidewalk gap connections. The limit is Market Trail to Highland Village Road. This fills existing sidewalk gaps with a 6-foot wide sidewalk to provide full connectivity of sidewalk facilities from Market Trail to Highland Village Road. This amounts to 3,700 roughly linear feet of pedestrian improvements. The conceptual opinion of probable costs, and we wanted to sort of show a cost that if you went after grant funding and were awarded grant funding, this would be the cost in a fiscal year 29 or 2029 or 2030 TxDOT or NICCOG funding range. So that came to $1,775,000. And then for turnkey design, survey, construction phase costs, basically from all of your field work to construction closeout, that comes in at $425,000.
What percentage is that? That seems high.
It is high. That is mainly due to the NEPA implications and then the H&H requirements. If you do get TxDOT funding on a project, they will require you to go through a NEPA process for environmental assessment, and then they'll also have you verify your hydraulics and hydrological analysis for any impacts there.
So anytime anybody improves anything on 407, it's because it's a TxDOT grant?
Correct, yes. Okay. If it's a TxDOT grant that has a advanced funding agreement attached to TxDOT and has that federal funding, they will require that full NEPA process, yes, ma'am.
That's 25%.
Yes, ma'am. So that is for full turnkey with a inflation for when the design were to kick off for this project. Yes, ma'am.
So it's 1.775 plus, so you're talking 2-point-something million. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. So we have a totaling at the end of option 1 that we'll show. But yes, ma'am.
And in any of these options, have you come up with the long-term maintenance cost of these options?
We have not at this time, but the implication is that we would be providing design that requires low O&M on these designs.
Okay.
So, all right. And then option 2, this is our full width shared use pass. So when I say full width, that is the 12-foot shared use pass for multi-use trails. This is the same limits, Market Trail to Highland Village Road. This is our 12-foot shared use path, SUP, for pedestrian and bike function. This is 5,200 linear feet of pedestrian improvements. Conceptual opinion, probable cost for, like I said, FY 29-30, $3.8 million. And then for turnkey survey, design, and construction phase, that's $870,000. Yes, sir.
Is it fair to say that it's 5,200 linear feet from Market Trail to Highland Village Road?
It is, yes.
Okay, so this is basically representing everything that's existing along 407's coming out.
Yes, that would be the intent.
Coming back in.
Yes, it would be, you're taking out all of your existing sidewalks, 4, 5, 6 feet wide, whatever they may be, and you're putting in a brand new trail.
Okay, thank you.
Does that include all right-of-way and easement acquisitions?
That includes, yeah, so what our intent is to use all of the TxDOT right-of-way. There would be some strip takings and some corner clips at intersections. But yes, that cost is for the right-of-way services, not, and the cost for the construction is for easement acquisition.
Not to buy the right-of-way?
I'm sorry?
Is it to purchase the right-of-way?
It's to purchase easement outside of the right-of-way.
Okay. So it includes the purchase price?
It does. That 3.8 does. The
Okay.
870 would include your right-of-way services, which is your negotiation, closing and title, things like that to acquire it. So, perfect. And then option 3, Unity Park Trail connections. So this is from Briar Hill Boulevard to Highland Village Road. This is to construct a new 8 to 12-foot shared use path. And I say 8. There are some pinch points along this corridor that would not allow us to build a full 12-foot based off of easement needs. This is 3,900 linear feet of pedestrian improvements. The conceptual opinion of probable construction cost is $2.19 million at FY 29-30 costs. And then for turnkey survey, design, and construction phase, that's $525,000.
On that one, is that a TxDOT NEPA requirement too?
That is not, and that's why you'll see that the cost is actually closer to
Still a 25% markup. So
right. So, and with that one, we're in the we're close to the CPKC right away. They do have downstream assessment requirements related to H&H that would be needed for those. And there's a few more drainage features to that one.
You say downstream assessment, you mean we're going to have to detain for the pavement, or what do you mean downstream assessment?
I mean, whatever improvements we're putting to the stream to the south of the railroad, we have to analyze to make sure that whatever we're placing in there will allow for flow to still be conveyed without creating any downstream or upstream impacts to the CPKC railroad right away.
Okay, so you're just talking about erosion and stability and stuff like
Yeah, and making sure we're not creating any rises within the railroad corridor. We're not increasing downstream velocities,
that. How
things
many
like that.
bridges, how many are there?
So there's 2 culvert crossings. So one of them, we would be aiming to do a bridge class culvert with our trail connection. And then the other one is just a 24-inch cross culvert.
Okay, I just would, I still think 25% is high for 2H and H study.
Yeah, and really the goal here is to show what a full turnkey would be. Once we get into actual scope and proposal prep, we'll be able to see if these costs can come down. I wanted to show a most conservative estimate so that y'all aren't shocked by anything higher than what's being shown today. So, all right. So getting into option 1, showing y'all the relative alignment that kind of follows along with the existing sidewalk, places where we're trying to keep entirely within TxDOT right away. We start at Market Trail. There's a small connection for the first 200 feet that then connects to existing sidewalk. That goes through Tartan Trail. From Tartan Trail going to the east, brand new sidewalk heading up to Barnett Boulevard. From there, we have a small gap that goes to our Whataburger entrance, where we'll have sidewalk connection from there all through the Bowery District there up until Briar Hill. There is a small connection that goes from Briar Hill east that we then connect up to heading around Station 33 there. And that will then continue all the way down up to Station, looks like 42 there. We have a driveway crossing that does not have sidewalk currently. And then there's an existing sidewalk that exists from there up to Highland Forest Drive. From there, all brand new sidewalk going from Highland Forest Drive up to Highland Village Road. So that is option 1.
7 Mile, sorry, can you go back?
Yes.
7 Mile Cafe.
Yes, 7 Mile Cafe. If you can see where the asphalt parking lot is right there,
Yeah.
it's right at that corner, and then we have that kind of small stream or tributary just to the southwest there.
That really is the most challenging, I think.
Yes, and you can kind of see throughout, we do make a couple sort of jostling bends and turns. That's really to get around as much of the existing utility infrastructure that's there and not have to do any relocations. I'll get into that with the next slide, but our intent with this one is really just to minimize our utility relocation and franchise utility relocation to adjustments, above ground appurtenance, adjustments to grade, things like that, not have any major line relocations. So. So kind of getting into some of the summary and superlatives of this option. So this achieves our continuous pedestrian connectivity within the corridor and the limits. It's not intended for bicycle traffic. It would be just a pedestrian use in this case. This option does have minimal easement acquisition requirements, corner clip takings on commercial property at intersections, things like that. We would be looking to locate the sidewalk as much within existing TxDOT right-of-way as possible. Yes, ma'am.
When you're looking at these, have you done a pedestrian impact analysis on what the actual use will be?
We have not, in terms of getting counts or pedestrian counts of usage. Most of what this alignment is based off of is the public input and from our previous meetings with the board last August, and then from city staff. So.
Oh, I totally get it. I just,
yeah.
Being that we had a $2 million budget deficit last year, it would be helpful to know, and I know a lot of cities are starting to require pedestrian impact analysis for proposed developments, and there's formulas to do it, to see exactly what we're talking about. Is it 50 people? Is it 1,000 people?
Sure.
Just to know, because the people using this are going to not be Highland Village residents. Some will, but mostly will be from other places. So it'd be just nice to know what the volume is.
Sure, sure. And I think with our next phase, if that's something that's requested by the city, we can provide that before we, move forward with a full-scale design. That's certainly something we can provide. So, okay, perfect. And then alignment avoids, as I mentioned, franchise utility relocations. Like I said, anticipating minor adjustments. This alignment has very minimal structural and drainage improvement implications. And as noted from the previous slides, this option 1 is least expensive. Our initial feedback from TxDOT, so we have discussed with Rachel Twiggs, the local government project coordinator at TxDOT Dallas District, and they've given us feedback on this alignment, and so far, and what we've had our conversations with her, there are no concerns with the placement of the sidewalk in their right-of-way corridor. So that is good news from a grant perspective, especially. Design would need to be TxDOT roadway design manual criteria and meet those guidelines, and include TxDOT specifications and bid items, not only with the grant, but because the entirety of the sidewalk would be within TxDOT right away. So total project cost, turnkey survey design and construction phase cost, just to reiterate, $525,000. Conceptual opinion of probable construction cost for FY 29-30, $1,775,000 with a grand total of $2.2 million. All right, moving into option 2. So this is our full width shared use trail. Very similar alignment, just the main features here being the width of the trail. So we're utilizing a 12-foot wide shared use path for pedestrian and bike facilities, starting at Market Trail, going all the way through to Tartan Trail. That continues through Barnett Boulevard. We then hit our section that crosses more of the commercial district, our Bowery district, leading up to Briar Hill Boulevard. This continues to the east. So again, basically taking out all of your existing sidewalk connections with our new 12-foot trail. As you can see here, some locations where we have a similar jostling out of the trail to avoid major utilities and above-ground appurtenances or vaults. And then finally, Highland Forest Drive connecting all the way to Highland Village Road there. Yes, sir.
How are you all handling the access ramps along here? They're not all 12 feet wide, obviously.
Right, and so what that's going to require is some driveway improvements. So in order to get our trail to connect and then provide for ADA access across those driveways, because like you said, right now they do have little stub outs and kind of gaps there to install a ramp, but with our 12-foot wide, we'll have to do some driveway improvements to get that all to be 2% and grade.
Does that affect the classification of the trail if it's 12 foot and then it tapers down to like 5 foot?
So we wouldn't be tapering them down at the driveways. We would maintain the 12 foot through the driveway section.
Can you go back one slide then? I think it's the Briar Hill section.
So that is the section where for driveways we're maintaining 12 foot. If we have existing intersection infrastructure or crossings, in order to get our trail in without impacting traffic signals, existing crossings, coordination with TxDOT and Flower Mound, that's why we've necked those down there to utilize as much of the crossing infrastructure as we can. If that's something that we need to explore to provide for those full 12-foot crossings at the lights, that's something we can.
Similar to Barnett, right, as well?
Yes, same situation there. Now that one is a 12-foot crossing.
East side?
Barnett.
Top right.
Yes, Barnett, right. We have a 12-foot crossing right there, yes, sir.
But the ramp itself is not 12.
So the ramp has an opening of 12 foot. Going north, it does neck down to existing there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Getting into the summary and superlatives for this option, so this does achieve a new continuous shared use path, like I said, for pedestrian and bicycle usage. Great scorecard for a NICCOG and TechStop grant perspective, especially with the multi-use function. And then moderate easement acquisition requirements. There are going to be strip takings in this application for this trail because of the width, and then obviously some corner clippings at our intersections where we're going to have that larger width connecting to existing sidewalks. The alignment, yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. Strip takings.
Yes, so
Are
that's.
we eminent domaining that?
So with this, it would be easement. We're not trying to take for right-of-way or that possession, essentially. It would be.
This would be voluntary though, right? The
it would-
landowner would have to grant us an easement.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, so is the estimate accounting for any monetary?
Yes, the 3.8 million does account for a conservative amount of square footage that would be needed at each property. Yes, sir.
Okay. Not giving them then any ideas, but. Yeah.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
How does this work in conjunction with the opportunity easement? Are they going to allow it?
So this one, and I wonder if maybe we're talking about option 3 on that one. There is an opportunity water district easement running along the railroad corridor.
No, there's a giant one running along 407.
Okay, is it in their own easement or is it
It's
in
right.
TxDOT right away?
But it's right up against the right of way. So
Okay,
you're going
okay.
to have to deal with upper Trinity.
Yeah, so that coordination will be something that we'll have to do on that piece. So it's something where if there's areas where they have that easement outside of the corridor, what we'll have to do is basically adjust our design to fit it all within the TxDOT right away. That's going to be our choice. The other one being if UTRWD is willing to grant any sort of surface improvements within their easement, there will have to be agreements in place to where if they have to do, yes, sir.
Oh, Scott.
The Upper Trinity does have an easement through the corridor, but we would work with them to do joint use agreements as we have already, and they do allow flat work in their easements.
Thank you.
All right. On this alignment, avoids major franchise utility relocations. We're anticipating above ground pedestal and vault adjustments, and then more than likely service line adjustments and relocations. But again, we are intending to avoid all major relocations with this alignment. There are moderate structural improvements with walls, cut and fill walls on either side of the alignment. And then we do anticipate one major culvert extension at FM 407. That's just to the south west of the 7 Mile Cafe at that stream crossing there. And then finally, option 2 is the most expensive. Initial feedback from TxDOT, very similar to our sidewalk gap connections, but speaking with Rachel Twiggs at Dallas District, she's given feedback that the area office and the district, no concerns with placement of the trail in their right-of-way corridor. Design, again, would need to meet TxDOT RDM criteria, including their TxDOT specifications and bid items. And then finally, cost, turnkey survey, design, construction, $870,000. Conceptual OPCC, $3.8 million for FY 29-30, with a grand total of $4.67 million for that one. And then one thing we did want to discuss briefly is the implication of an 8-foot trail if we implemented that, and sort of what the impacts and costs are there, pros and cons. So an 8-foot trail is considered allowable from AASHTO and from TxDOT, but is considered an absolute minimum for shared use paths. So you really need a hard amount of evidence to be able to make a case for an 8-foot trail being installed. They don't usually like those on large amounts of trail. It can be in pinch points in areas where there's an absolute need, if there's clearance issues, if there's a major utility that would have to be relocated if you put in a 12-foot, things like that. But you really just need a basis if you're going to go with that option.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want a little bit of clarification
Sure.
there. You said they don't like an 8-foot trail. Who is they?
TxDOT, so that would be on the grant funding side. So TxDOT and NICCOG.
Okay.
And so if you were to approach them for grants, with an 8-foot trail option, the likelihood of a award of a grant for an 8-foot trail is very, very low.
But it's a higher probability if you do a 12-foot.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because they like to see the full connectivity and the full width for a shared use path for the trails that they're currently funding.
So everybody can ride a bike, walk their kids, and have strollers at the same time.
Well,
And golf carts.
and golf course.
Yeah.
However, I think it goes back to a point we've restated several times, and you did again tonight, which is an impact analysis. If there's not that much traffic on there, this is an extreme amount of money to put forward for something we're not going to get the full impact out of, right?
That's a full drive aisle. That is a full
Right.
lane of pavement we're putting in
Right.
that you have to maintain.
Right.
And we had a $2 million budget deficit last year.
Right. Well, okay, you gave me the explanation I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And then 8-foot trails, typically, like I said, not best candidates for grant funding. Like I said, TxDOT, they prefer 10-foot minimum, but in most cases will only award for a 12-foot width. 8-foot trail would reduce the amount of easement requirements through the corridor, so that's sort of the benefit there. And then you also don't have as many structural improvement implications and cost related to that. So 8-foot trail option, very similar to the existing width that Market Trail is right now. So just for an apples to apples comparison, Market Trail, 8-foot wide, that would be the intent to and extend that through FM 407. From a cost benefit for a 6-foot wide sidewalk gap connection versus a new 8-foot trail may not be warranted. We're showing some prices here for turnkey survey, design and construction, and then conceptual OPCC. It's about double as what a sidewalk, as what the 6-foot sidewalk gap connection cost would be. So there would be that consideration as y'all make a decision on an option moving forward. And then finally, our option 3, our Unity Park trail connections. So this is going from Briar Hill Boulevard to the existing sidewalk and trail connection there, just to the northwest of Unity Park. This runs along the northern boundary of city right-of-way and property. This extends through the park. There's an impact to the dog trail that we're going to look to minimize as much as possible. I do want to clarify that the line work shown on the property boundary here is not exact. That's based off of GIS planometrics and their information. So there is possibility that that could be a little bit further to the north or further to the south. But once we get a full-scale survey and boundary research and verify that property line, we'll be able to locate our trail accordingly to minimize those impacts to the dog park. From there, going to the east, we come around the elevated storage tank, our water tower there. We do have a trail spur connection that actually connects to the sidewalk and pedestrian facilities within Unity Park. From there, going east, we start to get into private property, some existing easements, areas like that to where there will be easement acquisition required for our trail easement through that corridor.
From the homeowners?
So this particular area is from the HOA, their open space parcel. There is a corridor or a parcel that's sort of the rather large one on the west side of Highland Village Road that would be a actual private property easement acquisition.
So we can't, you're having to acquire easement from all the homeowners on the north side of their properties,
So it would be,
out of the railroad.
exactly, and so I'll get into that in just
I thought you said that's HOA land.
So yeah, you can kind of see the slight diagonal clip. They have a small strip that the HOA does own. From after that portion, there's a 3-stack of culverts.
It's Highland Forest HOA.
Yes, Highland Forest
So you
HOA.
would need it from the farm people off of Highland Village Road.
Yes, that property owner,
As well as the HOA.
as well as the HOA. So two acquisitions, or 2 owners, yes, sir. And this assumes a 15-foot trail easement. So you're getting in an 8-foot portion of the trail within that 15-foot easement. So just to minimize as much easement acquisition as we can.
How
And then-
close is that to that house?
So again, I just want to clarify that the property lines and legal limits shown here are not exact. We would be entirely within the HOA boundary, so avoiding the house and its building limits through that area.
I was thinking more the person.
Oh, on the larger property?
The HOA I don't think's your problem. Let's just start there.
Yeah. So to scale, the trail easement, like I said, is about 15 feet. So if you kind of eyeball that from there, that's roughly 90 feet from that northern edge of the house right there.
Right next to the barn. Would it take out the barn?
It's conceptual.
We might be working off of a different
Okay.
aerial.
I don't know, there's just the barn right there.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
Okay. Yeah. And then finally, exiting the easement, crossing Highland Village Road to connect to the existing pedestrian facilities on the east side of Highland Village Road. So summary and superlatives for this option, it does achieve new continuous shared use pedestrian bicycle user connectivity between the two roadways and Unity Park. There is approximately 24,000 square feet of easement acquisition anticipated. That assumes our 15-foot trail easement taking on Highland Forest HOA in one residential property, the larger property there just west of Highland Village Road. Utility coordination with UTRWD with their water line, though avoiding relocations. They have a very, very deep transmission line through that corridor, so we do not anticipate any relocations of the line itself. It would be any above-ground appurtenances that exist within their corridor. And then moderate structural improvements and 2 minor culvert crossings to get the drainage to convey. Option 3 saves pedestrian bike users going to Unity Park from the east of Highland Village Road up to 1 mile of travel distance if they're going to Unity Park. So instead of having to go north, head through the trail system in that area and then head back down south on Briar Hill, quick connection going through this area to get to Unity Park. So it saves a decent amount of distance and time for those users.
And our residents would actually be the ones using this.
Correct. All right, and then to the point on the CPKC railroad right-of-way, so what we showed y'all back in August showed utilization of the railroad right-of-way for this corridor. We had an original alignment that proposed the entirety of it being within the CPKC right-of-way through a Trails on Rails program in that sort of grant program that's available. In discussions with Amy Andrews, the U.S. real estate manager for CPKC, they were very adamant about the railroad not being able to support public trail use in their railroad right-of-way. This is based off of the latest news from them being that freight operations are going to kick back up. I believe previously they might have had 1, maybe 2 freight trains come through. They anticipate anywhere from 9 to 12. It might be more. Y'all might have more recent information on that, but they intend to use this corridor much more often now. So,
Well, DCTA dropped the option to even put passenger rail on it, which that told me they're done.
sure. Yep. So with that, our alignment was moved entirely out of the railroad right-of-way. So that is what we are showing today. On total project cost, turnkey survey, design, and construction phase, $525,000. Conceptual OPCC, $2.19 million in FY 29-30, coming in at $2.715 million on this option 3. All right, so I'm going to pass it off to Liz to go over grant opportunity assessment, and she'll kind of discuss some of the programs and features to that. So thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Kevin. So I'm going to talk about the grant implications of each of the alignments. Put my glasses on so I can see. First, I want to just zoom back out a bit to bring us back to what we were looking at as far as alignments for grant options, just on a big picture scale. This just shows you kind of how big and long these alignments are. This is what a map would look like if you're applying for a grant to show them where you're putting your projects. So these are the 2 alignments we're looking at. After speaking with NCTCOG and with you guys and with city staff, we adjusted the alignments that we're looking at to make them the most competitive for grant funding. So my job is really to look at this for federal and grant funding and just to provide as much information as possible so you guys could make informed decisions about how you want to use your local dollars and time. Kevin already went through the costs for each one of the alignments, so I'm going to skip through this. I have another slide where I'm going to talk about the implications of local funding, if you want to use federal funding or not. So I'm going to move past this one and give you some updates since the last time we met. So since we last met with you, we took the projects to NCTCOG to talk about what their feelings were about the projects that we listed. After that meeting, they suggested, the NCTCOG suggested that there might be another funding option outside of 2 grants that we had identified for these projects. So we had identified the transportation alternative grants from both NCTCOG and TxDOT. Those are still really good options. There is another funding program through NCTCOG that is from the same bucket of money at the feds, but it comes down in a different way. It's called their transportation funding program. That program they are grant dollars, but there's a different way to go about getting it. It's more low-hanging fruit, it's less competitive, it's more collaborative. They work with you every step of the way, and generally those funds are reserved for roadway projects, which is why we didn't ID it up front to look at for these projects. When we met with them, they said because of the implications of these alignments, both being on the VeloWeb, so the regional trail network, and the implications of safety, taking people off roadways to walk to get to destinations, they could fit these under 2 different types of funding options from this transportation funding program. So there's a lot of information I'm going to put out here for you. My final deliverable to you all and to the city is a report that presents all of this information in report form so that you can see it all and look through it after this presentation. So looking at that option, the transportation funding program from NCTCOG, that process is opening again throughout the summer. So if you want to use that option, that could be a next step for you all. That is, you're already pretty well positioned for it. There isn't a whole lot of lift to get there, and it could be a way to get design and construction funded for one of these options. Yes, ma'am.
The only option 2 fits it. That's the only one that meets the threshold.
So these are different. There are different programs here. So the first program is the transportation funding program. That does not have a threshold. So any of the projects could fit in there, but what we're going to, I mean, it's no surprise, but where we'll get to at the end is that we think that the full shared use path for FM 407 is going to be the best option if you want to bring federal funding in to help offset dollars. It's going to score better in any program. The transportation funding program is outside of the transportation's grants, which is the next section down. So the TxDOT Transportation Alternatives Grant Program, because of where the city is, which is within a transportation management area, in previous TxDOT statewide calls for projects in this area, if they don't go to NCTCOG to ask for funding, have had to go into a large category bucket. And so the threshold in the past has been $5 million. We expect they will have a little less money from the federal government in their next round of funding. It could be that they don't want their projects to be that high. We don't know what the ultimate threshold will be, but we want you to be aware that that was there in the last call. Once we saw how much these were coming in at, we needed to make sure that you're aware that there could be a threshold to walk into. Now, that's something where if you're looking at it and you really want to, I mean, I would never suggest bulking up a project to make it fit within a grant program, but there might be safety aspects you could be looking at or lengthening it. I mean, we could look at ways to make it more competitive for that program. Ultimately, I think the transportation funding program from NCTCOG, which doesn't have a threshold, is going to be the best bet anyway. And we really need to go there first and see what they say. And then it's almost like a flow chart. If they say no, then we would go to the next option. So the first option doesn't have a threshold.
I just feel like we're being pushed to the most expensive one to get funding, which may or may not be the best for our residents. That's where I'm feeling this conversation's going. I could be wrong.
Well, yeah, I certainly don't want to, I wouldn't want to push anyone to any decision. I just want to provide transparent information and let you know where you are and how things would look for federal funding. I am the last to want to push any city to go for grant funding if that's not, if for a project that isn't the will of the citizens, nor would an agency want to fund it because they want what the citizens want. That's ultimately the biggest seller, is when they see that a community wants a trail to be done.
Can I ask, what are the realistic, I guess, probability of, if we're talking about the COG funding, just in your professional opinion, you know other regional projects that are in the area, like what would that really look like for us?
For the transportation funding program, I think they're really high.
Okay.
I think you have a really good shot, and there's a low threshold of burden to put together the information for that program. And the beauty of that program is that it's run in tandem with the Transportation Alternatives Grant. They're not the same committees, but they work hand in hand looking at each other's projects. So if it doesn't fit for their transportation funding program, the folks over here in the Bike Ped Committee will have had eyes on it. They all know about this project already. We check in regularly about Highland Village. All the folks at the COG or the folks who need to know are aware of these projects, but would not want anything to go forward without the citizens and committees wanting them to move forward. So I will say for the transportation funding program, I think they're pretty high. I don't know I can't give you a percentage. I can for the TxDOT statewide transportation alternatives program, that is very competitive. Less than half of the applications that go in get funded, but we would only want you to go through the pain of that with something like FM 407 because of all the criteria it meets. Not because of the cost, but because it has more safety implications, it connects to more businesses and places, and it had its own corridor plan in your big master plan. So there are things there that make it rise to the state level of funding. It's still a really hard one to win. And the NCTCOG grant program, I think it has a pretty good shot as well. I think the transportation funding program,
Number one.
best shot. NCTCOG's the next best shot. TxDOT is your third best shot. So we put them all up there, and we have kind of a waterfall of where do you go first, and we can give you information on whatever steps you want to take. Yeah.
So we have these three options. We've met on these three options. We even took rides to look at all these three options. And we all go back to the Briar Hill option because our citizens, I mean, that's the one we've talked about the most. It makes the most sense for our citizens, especially since Highland Village Elementary has been closed. So do we get to pick one, or are you just going to throw them all out there? Because I guess we need to decide what's best for our residents, not what's best for the region.
Absolutely. I mean, the ones that I looked at are what we provided information on, but that doesn't mean you have to choose them. Absolutely not. I mean, this is just the information we can provide you so you can make informed decisions about what some options would be. So we wouldn't want to push you into anything that isn't right for your community. Okay, so we've kind of just gone through this, but I have it lined out a little bit more here. So we do think that the low-hanging fruit, the best first option, should you want federal funding for any of these. You don't have to do it, but any one of these options will be federal funding. The lowest hanging fruit is going to be the NCTCOG Transportation Funding Program. We think it would score really, really well. It's on the VeloWeb. It's a less burdensome application process. It's more like a page application. It's not nothing, but it's very transparent. You work directly with the program manager. You provide the information. You have a lot of it now from what you've already paid for this process. And they will let you know if it's going to move forward or not. What happens with that one is that they can fund design. So where we are now, I think Kevin would say we're at 15, about 15%. So that's just fine when you walk into the transportation funding program. They could fund design from 15 all the way to the end of construction. What would happen for any one of these federal programs is that whatever you ask for in federal funding, you would have to procure a consultant competitively to develop whatever you needed for that project. So you just have to go out publicly and procure somebody specifically for a federally funded project. So all of these are going to bring that burden, and along with NEPA, all of them bring NEPA. The cons for that program is it takes a little longer than a regular grant. If you guys have dealt with grants before, grants always take a long time. You're looking at least a year to get a signed funding agreement, at least probably a year for NEPA, even if you have a categorical exclusion. You're working for any of these programs, you're working with TxDOT. TxDOT can sometimes be the one that takes a long time, whether you're ready to go or not. They're reviewing all your designs. So you're always going to have an elongated schedule with federal funding. It's federalizing the project. That's always something to consider. The transportation funding program, where it is easier to apply, it takes a little bit longer to get to construction. It takes more like 4 years versus 3 years to get to construction. Then the next highest score we think would be in the NCTCOG Transportation Alternatives Grant. Again, we think it would score really well. The NCTCOG wants to fund this trail because it's on their VeloWeb, and it also connects directly with the communities surrounding it. And there are the communities surrounding, while that's not the goal for you guys, is not to connect to I'm not sure. I don't want to say that. I misspoke. What they see is the regional implication of it because communities around the area are also looking to implement pieces of grants and trails that connect up to 407 and over to 407. So they have a regional look at it where they see the more that they can get done along their VeloWeb, the better. That's their goal. They want to get their VeloWeb funded. And then the TxDOT Transportation or Alternatives Grant, we do think that I think it could be competitive. That's the hardest, most burdensome application process, but it will also fund design, so you could get design funded in that. In the NCTCOG TA grant, you cannot get design funded. With the TxDOT TA grant or the NCTCOG Transportation Funding Program, you could get design funded from where you are moving on. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next piece. What I just spoke about when federalizing the project is what some folks call it, expecting anything with federal funds to have a longer time to get to construction. Sometimes that means more costs, right? Because like you saw these inflated costs for turnkey engineering and design, that's because it's with federal funding. So those costs would be lower if you're not getting a project federally funded. You're gonna pay more to get a federally funded project up front with design, and your overall project is gonna cost more. But y'all will have to decide if it's worth it, the return on investment, to get a few $1 million of construction and design covered, even though it inflates your costs a little bit. And we have a table that speaks to that in just a few slides. We already talked about NEPA, and TxDOT would have to review all design milestones, whether it comes through the COG or not. They partner with whoever is going to run the program. All of these projects would require, all of these funds would require 20% non-federal match. Okay. So just again, going back to where we started and looking at these alignments, both of the sections, both near the rail and on FM 407, have great grant implications for regional connectivity. They both support this idea of blue zone living, which is using mobility and walking paths, pedestrian access to improve health benefits, physical health, social health, getting out and walking with your kids to school, seeing other parents, and economic health, getting more folks walking to your businesses. So they start all with a good story. You've got a good story there. They're not the only good stories in Highland Village, but these specifically are the ones we looked at, and they have great benefits to them. The reason we think the FM 407 full shared use path, the 12-foot path, is going to be the most grant-ready project or most competitive project for federal funds is just as I mentioned before. So there are a number of reachable destinations. Whenever you put this into a funding program, it's almost like it's not exactly a point per destination, but it's almost like that. So the more destinations you have that you're meeting and you're reaching, the higher you're going to score. FM 407 is the only place out of any of the ones we looked at that has actual accidents with pedestrians recorded on the TxDOT mapping system. What that means is that by implementing a full 12-foot SUP, just as you stated, it brings everybody off of the road. So you have bikes, walkers, wheelchairs, rollers. You're pulling everyone off of the motor vehicle traffic, and that is a high safety implication on a really busy thoroughfare that has seen accidents. So that also pushes it up in federal funding and looking at federal funding past the railroad alignment. And then the other piece is that it had its own plan in your comp plan. In your overall plan, you had a very specific plan for the FM 407 corridor, among other things, but that piece of it also makes it very attractive for federal funding. It's also got safe routes to schools benefit.
It does not.
Yes.
According to the Texas Transportation Code, nobody would be crossing 407 to go to the schools, and nobody in Highland Village would be taking 407 to go to the schools. So this keeps coming up. But after Highland Village Elementary closed and how things have to be bused, I don't know how you square that round peg.
I think so. When we looked at it certainly it would have to be what's true for the community, and we would put what really works for the community. Just looking at it on a map in black and white, when NCTCOG looks at it, they look at the school that is the schools that are on the north side of FM 407. So it's folks coming down and going over on FM 407 that they're seeing that connection for safe routes to school, not folks coming from across 407 or south of 407.
Right.
That's the connection they're seeing.
Right. All of Highland Village, that's what I'm trying to say. All of Highland Village doesn't go, I can't think of one route to take 407 to get to any school that they walk. They're not going to go around. They're not going to go 407. I mean, we need to be realistic on what's a benefit to our community. And saying that it's safe routes to schools is really not what's happening. I mean, I've said this like every meeting, but nobody's walking on 407 to go to school because the houses are away from 407 and the schools are away from 407. So I know I've said it before, but I'm just reiterating.
I would disagree. The west side could use 407 to get to Marcus.
They can't, but per the transportation code, they're not supposed to cross 407. So that's not a safe route to school. They have to be bused.
Well,
That's what I'm saying. To qualify, you have to be within the transportation code from what I understand. So you're not supposed to promote them crossing 4-lane divided when the transportation code doesn't allow it. That's what I'm trying to say. If it's allowed, great, but I don't think the transportation code allows that. That's all I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Is I get it, scooters to Marcus, go to Marcus, but that's not, if this is a TxDOT grant with TxDOT things, when I work in a safe route to schools grants, it's a big no-no to cross FM roads. That's all I'm saying.
So one of the, I feel like this got loud, I'm sorry. So one of the recommendations we have, if you move forward with wanting federal funding and we take it to the NCTCOG Transportation Funding Program, if they don't fund it and you want to go into NCTCOG's Transportation Alternatives Funding Program, what they suggested is the only way they could think of to boost the score for an already high score that they see for this alignment would be to actually adopt a Safe Routes to School plan that identifies what the route would be. So very well, if you did that, it very well could show that it's not the right route, I mean, from what you're saying. But that's something that NCTCOG said, look, it connects to this school, but you're not going to really get those points unless you do a true adopted Safe Routes to School plan. So you would need more information to show that, and it could very well prove that case.
There's actually a section of Louisville ISD or from Highland Village Elementary that is on the south side of Justin Road that still commute to that, so that could be helpful.
They've always been bused. That triangle, the triangle, yeah, they've always been bused. They've never been allowed. That again is against the transportation code. They've always been bused since day one. Plus, it's more than, I think, 2 miles.
We do see kids going in the mornings, going from Morris Road. There's that neighborhood, I don't know what it's called, just north on Morris Road, across the road there, across 407, walking down the grass alongside 407 toward Briar Hill. Not a lot.
Right.
That's a small area.
That's what they're doing. It's just,
yeah.
I'm a code person. When the code says you can't do it.
Yeah. I'm saying that they'll do it if there's a path. They'll do it in mass, you know?
But we can't encourage it. But we really, I guess, with all that said, go back to our options and the 3 options we talked about, and the one that works the best for our community is really, I guess, where we need to lead this discussion.
We need to let them finish.
Yes, let them finish, but.
So as we discussed, where we think you would see the most points or see the most competitive project would be the 12-foot SUP on FM 407. We wanted to show what it might look like to fund these locally versus with federal funding. So we've included the funds from the Highland Village CDC Fund and the DCA TRIP Fund, about $3.7 million. This is just from numbers that we've been given that could change by the time something comes through in a grant application. What we see is if you wanted to fund both of these projects locally, both of these alignments, you would either do option 1 for the sidewalk gaps on FM 407 and the railroad trail, or you would do the full SUP on FM 407 and the railroad trail. So we have the options there of what the local price would be or the local dollar amount would be if you chose those 2 options together to get both things funded in your community locally. This is what it would look like. If you went to get federal funding for option 2, the FM 407 full shared use path, you could ask for this $3.7 million for construction and design. So the TxDOT or the Transportation Funding Program would fund design and construction. Your local match then would be $934,000. So if you just wanted to do that one trail, that's what your local cost would be, $934,000. If you wanted to do both and fund the other one locally, then your local cost would be $3.6 million and a federal total investment of $3.7 million. If you went to the NCTCOG Transportation Alternatives Program, you would also have to pay for engineering. So that's an added cost. That bottom table shows that added cost of $870,000 if you went into that application. So it puts you more, your local total investment goes up to $4.3 million if you want both alignments funded, and a federal total investment of $3 million. So this is just so you can see how it plays out with the fund numbers that we've been given, just looking at the information we have.
Would this require to pass any more bonds? Phil?
I don't think I know the answer to that.
Would we have to pass any more bonds
No.
to fund any of this?
If you were able to use TRIP funds and fund balance, you would not.
So the 4 million, we could figure it out?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to issue any other bonds.
Okay.
So if you did choose to just do one and put it in the transportation funding program from NCT-COG, then your local investment would be just around 900,000. Not that that's a low amount, and I know that you guys had a budget shortfall last year, so none of it's nothing. But that could be an option if you're looking at just doing one or one trail. So here are our recommendations if you want federal funding, completely, of course, up to the citizens, up to the community. The NCT-COG funding transportation program, to us, is the low-hanging fruit. You would not have to do a whole lot to get ready for that. With where you already are with design that Kevin has done and his team, we could give that information to NCT-COG probably today and see what they said and see if they wanted to fund it. I would never do that without approval from the city, but it's a low lift for what you would need to do to see if they could fund it. My recommendation, if you want federal funding, is to talk to the manager there. Brian Dell is his name. We could help you put forth this project, if you'd like us to, into that program. See what they say. They should know by fall whether or not they would fund it for you. If they're not going to fund it, then we go to the next tier. The next tier, because of timing, would be probably the TxDOT statewide call. Even though that's a harder one to win, it's going to come before the NCT-COG's regional call. And the way they usually do those is NCT-COG waits for the TxDOT state call to be announced before they open their call, so you know if you win in one before you go to the other. So there's it's a step system. You know, if you don't get it here, we try the next one. If you don't get it there, we try the one after that. But my hope is that we could put it forth to the transportation funding program, and they would fund the whole thing for you guys. Up to 80%, of course. There'd still be 20% local match. So that would be our recommendation. We don't think for applications, for grant applications or any of the projects that we have already discussed, we think that you have enough public meetings as far as grant and federal funding requires. It doesn't mean it's enough for the threshold for your citizens and for your committees and what you want to do. But as far as what you would need for the federal for the federal funding, you do have enough now to go in and say that you've had the meetings, and we could check that box. If you do get federally funded, you will need more public meetings for NEPA. You will have to have, obviously, one-on-one meetings with property owners and right-of-way. TxDOT will be a big part of that project, and you'll have meetings with TxDOT along with your consultant, and of course, private ownership coordination. So for grant purposes and federal funding purposes, you have met what you need to for public meetings. Doesn't mean it's what you need as a city. And that's really it. So tonight we're here, we're talking about what our recommendations are. I'm gonna hand it back over to Phil to close it out. If you wanted to move forward with more pre-positioning or design, depending on what program you wanna go to, we could discuss that further upon your approval and where else you need help. Any other questions before I hand it back?
Great, thank you.
Okay, sure.
As far as the bond question, was that answered for you? It should have been no.
No.
Yes. And I don't know if you, Liz, really hammered that home what the city's match is in each one of these. Did you receive that information well enough as well?
The problem is the maintenance.
Sure.
We can get all these beautiful things and spend all this beautiful money, but we have to maintain them. And with the 4B, might be up for discussion with council to rearrange that. So that's a big deal. If we put it in the ground, how do we afford to maintain it when we had a $2 million budget shortfall? That's where I'm coming from is, this is beautiful, but realistically, how do we maintain it down the road? Because you're putting in a full lane of pavement. Highland Shores Boulevard's not cheap. So coming from a fiduciary responsibility, it's like you can get it low. It's like buying a house. Oh, I got great in the house, but how do I furnish it? How do I mow the lawn? How do I afford all this stuff? So, I mean, my biggest concern is how do we maintain these things when we may or may not have the budget?
Right, and that might be the next step, is also communicating with the property owners along there that currently maintain that area and the sidewalks. Is that something that they're willing to take on? And maybe,
I would never ask a property owner
Yeah.
to maintain 12 feet of pavement. That's
oh,
ridiculous.
not the pavement, I apologize. I meant the mowing around it in
No,
terms
no,
of.
I'm talking
The actual pavement itself.
everything
Correct.
is so, and it's going to go up and up and up. And
Right.
we've been and we've met, and I thought we were, maybe I misunderstood, we were dialing in on one of the three options.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this was a let's throw everything in and try to get a grant discussion, which is great, but how do we maintain this? We have all this great, oh, this will be just this much, but who's paying the bill 10 years from now when we have to replace pavement and sections and all of that stuff? That's where I'm looking at as.
I want to jump in for just a minute. The presentation was given to us, should we decide to go forward to a grant. They do want a recommendation on what we want to do, but it doesn't mean we have to take a grant option. So I wanted to clarify
Okay.
that. We're going to discuss what we want to do
Okay.
moving forward. I would like to give everybody an opportunity to speak up and ask any questions of you if anybody else has anything.
Well, I have a couple thoughts. They're not going to mean a whole lot, but I like option 1 and 2 a lot more than I like option 3. You're getting twice the linear footage of connectors for the city of Highland Village, and you're opening up the west part of town with a path that they could use. That Briar Hill to Highland Village, I mean, we already have the regional bike lane that bisects our city in half. We have sidewalks along Briar Hill, right? And then Highland Village, we're just putting in a sidewalk, right? Where we don't have continuous sidewalks along 407, right? So my opinion is options 1 or 2. I'd go 1 because it's cheaper, but if 2 is more competitive and costs less in the end, that seems like a farther reach. But option 3, it just seems redundant, and I don't see any world where we're going to be able to procure right-of-way behind, or easements behind, all those private residences to the north of Briar Hill, right? Because as we go along the railroad track, if we can't use the railroad, those are all individual lots that go up that whole route, right? I mean, tell me I'm wrong, but.
Isn't that just from Highland Village Road to Briar Hill, though?
Well, I mean, if we ever think about connecting it up or south, those are all private homes back there that we would be trying to procure easements from, right? Similar to what we're trying to do for those.
Yeah, we're definitely restrained to that specific area. And
Yeah, I'll be quiet. Just my opinion is option 1 or 2 is you're doubling, for the same amount of money, you're doubling the amount of connectivity, right? And you're not necessarily being redundant. That option 3 to me strikes me as being redundant. So I'll be quiet.
anybody else?
I like the option 1 or 3. Preferably, I mean, again, we're filling in the gaps and people can get there, but I want to do what's best for our residents to use.
And rightly so, and I think our focus has to be on what is the best option available for our residents, right? Don't worry about where it's coming from right now. What is the
Right.
best option? What are they actually going to use? Which goes back to the question, and some of the ones I have, is we really don't know what an impact analysis is going to tell us. I think we need to consider that option, that as well, to find out. Personally, I've been on 407, I've been on the sidewalks. I don't see anybody on them. honestly.
It's because there's no sidewalks there.
Well, there are.
Well, I got to
There are-
cross the
there are
road a
par-
couple
there are
times to get on the
pieces.
sidewalk.
There are pieces that don't. I mean,
Well, there's cow paths along there, so that tells you somebody's walking there,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
But if I walk from my house to Firestone or Discount Tire, right, I got to cross the street a couple times, I got to walk in the grass, and I do that, but I'd be much nicer if I had a sidewalk
But I agree.
that ran
But-
continuously down 407.
But my point was, if you look at it from usage, the majority of people, you don't have a lot of people on that. You do have people that use it. You don't have a lot of people, but we don't know that. Right?
Build it,
goes back
they
to
might use it.
They
I
may.
mean,
Yeah,
how
I
many more people
may.
are going to use that option 3, though? I mean,
Brian, you mind if I say a couple of things?
please.
Somebody.
I want to go back to when we started the comprehensive plan, and I made a presentation to City Council in February of 2021, I believe. And at that time, I'd been there about 6 months. The council wanted me to give a little bit of assessment of what I saw. And some of the things I pointed out was the obvious. One, we're approaching build-out. Two, when you approach build-out, your revenues are going to plateau. 3, in addition to that, retail is changing, has changed because of online ordering, Amazon, everything else. And so one of the concepts was, when we looked at the Village 407 corridor study, was to really kind of create a sense of place, to have something there that would tie in our entire hike and bike trail system to our retail corridor, and to be able to benefit retailers along there as well. And in talking about the sense of place, if you've got a trail like that, there's going to be people that I think would be attracted to that. It would hopefully benefit some retailers as well. Some other improvements could be done along there, little pocket parks, whatever else. I think it would even encourage some retailers to do some things. When we first started having those discussions, the ownership has changed now at Bowery Park, but the ownership at Bowery Park said that would be great to have that continuous sidewalk across all of our frontage to provide access to our store. So that's really one of the concepts of the 407 corridor study. So I just want to make sure we do keep that in mind. And when we hired HAF, one of the big things about that was to identify grant sources, to really make the most out of our money. Right. If you've got a 20% match, if you've also have trip funds that can be used as well, you could almost do it without the city paying for it. Now, I certainly agree with Rhonda. The long-term maintenance has to be factored in, because we were even having a discussion at our directors meeting this morning about how difficult this budget is going to be. And the next few years are going to be extremely difficult. So we have to be cognizant of that. But at the same time, this was really almost an economic impetus to try to do something along 407 for the retailers, to really boost that up and to hopefully keep storefronts full. So I want to make sure that that's kept in mind as we're having that discussion.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Well, I think an analysis would be helpful then, because
I
when
think
you
it
look
would
at
be.
transit orient and people walking to places, the threshold's half a mile. Not 2 miles, not 1 mile, it's half a mile. So knowing where the people are coming from and how they're using the services. And I get being regional, but for our residents, and yes, we want to build our sales tax stuff, but who is going, I mean, maybe it's just the half a mile to the shops and people from Flower Mound and enhancing a crosswalk. So who's coming? Because I don't see people from my side. I'm not walking from Selmeyer to the shops. Well, I'm the model of fitness, but no, I'm just not. I mean, it's hot with the kids. I'm going to drive, because if I'm shopping, I'm not going to carry my bags 3 miles home. So my point is we need to look at it. I get it and if that's what we need to center on, then maybe we need to look at just around that area of the half mile on who's going to walk there, who's going to bike there, who is really going to go there. But I feel like, well, there's a door opening, we need to make application, and we just don't have all the information. And I'm huge on the maintenance thing, but we don't know who's going to use it. We don't know where they're coming from, and we don't know how much it's going to cost to maintain. It's very hard to make a decision and say, hey, go apply for this, because then we'll get stuck with it, and then we have a round peg and a square hole and a budget deficit. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. The one thing, though, about our citizens in the larger picture, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I think they
No.
can benefit both. And I think with the right type of trail system, it will encourage people to get on their bike or whatever else and maybe go a little bit further than they would otherwise.
I 100% agree, but we need the analysis to show us that.
And I don't disagree with that.
So I have a couple other questions. And the COG funding, does it require us to go to or the TxDOT, either one of them, the grants, does it require us to do the full width of the sidewalk?
So
Specify the width.
it depends on what you're asking for. So you can ask for sidewalk, and you can get points for having it be for the sidewalk
Okay,
gaps.
so I'm going to interrupt you right there.
Yeah.
The way you worded that was, assuming that we're looking at getting the most potential grant possible, then
The most competitive is full 12-foot, 10 to 12-foot.
most competitive.
The most competitive, because that's multiple modes of mobility.
Is that also the highest probability?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, all of these have been really good points, and I also want to, I just want to point out what I haven't put up here. All of these programs come back. This is not the only time they'll be around. The transportation funding program is about to open up, but it comes every few years whenever they need projects. It's not a set time.
Which leads into my other question, which is, whichever one of these that we opt to further consider, the 3 or 4 year program, the cost that you provided us for these is today's dollars. What is built in for inflation? What number?
So the construction cost does have that fiscal year 29, 2030 inflation implication. So
Based on what, 3.5%, 4%?
correct, yeah. Basically, we compounded that over the next 3 to 4 year period when construction would actually occur and bids would actually be received at that time. That's what that cost that you've seen for the OPCC accounts
So we
for.
can look at this and say the number you provided would be anticipated numerical change to that timeframe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. The path along the railroad gave me pause. There's one thing I didn't think in the cost that you put forward doesn't consider the cost to extend along Highland Village Road to get to it, I believe. That's just the path on the south side of that railroad.
But aren't we having you're talking about from Highland Village?
What I'm doing is anticipating any potential other cost that we're not aware of yet, right? Same thing, right? What is it going to cost to maintain it? We need to have some type of figure
Yeah.
to incorporate into a budget
Because going
and what its implications.
north, we would have sidewalk because of the Highland Village Road reconstruction. Going south, there is no sidewalk.
On,
Which is why what we're showing today shows a crossing on Highland Village Road, and it provides for stub outs to go north and south without crossing Highland Village Road.
but with that, it seems to me then you are somewhat defeating the purpose of the trail system because you're not bringing those people on a sidewalk towards the Highland Village Road corner where there are multiple businesses and offices, for that matter, that people work in on a daily basis, right?
Not at this moment, just because there is no existing
Which would
sidewalk on
force them,
the
if they
west
want to
side
stay on the sidewalk, force it over, go to 407, cross back over and come back down.
at this time. Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting at. Those are the additional costs that we're not
Yeah.
putting into that number, in that option.
Gotcha.
I think I'm with Robert right now that that railroad option is one of my least favorites because of what his points and some of the other things that I think we potentially could see there as additional cost factors. I'm with Rhonda in trying to figure out an impact, usage, and cost, or impact analysis for usage along there, along 407. From my personal opinion, I'm leaning more to option number one, preferably for me. But this is a whole board, so.
I would agree with you. I'd like to see how it's being utilized. You're talking about cow paths that are there, but is that strollers? Is that bikes? Like, who's using that? If it's just a walking path, then I think we could get by with option one.
I totally agree. We got to know who's using it and which sections, I
Yeah.
think, as well.
I think that,
Liz alluded to the TxDOT studies of number of accidents on 407, pedestrian accidents. Do we have anything to tell us what those are? We've looked at, on council, we've looked at accident reports, and we didn't see that
Yeah.
many. So I'm curious where these numbers are coming from and how far along 407? Are they limiting it to a specific segment, or is it an entire?
So they pull the CRIS data, so from the TxDOT safety database, and they use it's called the Pedestrian Safety Action Plan map for the whole state. They're pulling accident data that TxDOT has, so your local police officers or firefighters might have other data that hasn't been input, or maybe they don't have it. This is what the state has that's been added to the state database, the CRIS database. And it ends at 2023. So it's always a couple years behind. And they take 5 years of data. What they showed on FM 407 was a fatality at the very end of 407, right before the railroad. So I think that there is a health facility in that area. It's past our project alignment. So it's further to the east of our project alignment. That's where the fatality
Which is Louisville, I believe.
yeah, when did we have this fatality? Yeah, I don't think it's in Highland Village, but when was this fatality?
Yeah. Stonehill Farms.
Okay,
when that's
so that's,
So that
Yeah.
one fatality skews everything and shows that it could use.
believe me, we have tons of people asking us about lights on 407, how many accidents on 2499 and 407, and this is the first that we've heard we've had issues.
And I understand you have to take the data that's provided by TxDOT, and it's not drilling down to the
Just for
specifics.
for the grant programs, they give you a data set to use. So that's what I pulled it from. But by the time, if you guys do want to go for a grant application, they'll have updated data, and it could be that it shows something different. That's just what it shows now. And what that data does is it pairs it with a countermeasure that could have prevented that accident. So the countermeasure that they suggest for that accident, because it was a pedestrian crossing mid-block, would be sidewalks or shared use path was one of the implementation countermeasures they suggested. So that's a piece that makes it go up for the TxDOT grant. Doesn't mean you should do it, but that's where it came from.
But that's not even in the area we're studying. That's a little
That
dishonest.
particular-
So, right, and I also brought that up with the folks at TxDOT at NCTCOG. They said just because there's an accident on that road, if you're putting something further down the road that takes people off the road so that they're not crossing mid-block, which this is not exactly addressing mid-block either, but he said you can tie it into things that are further down the road as long as you're doing some kind of countermeasure that they suggested down here. So I thought the same thing. I thought, well, if we're not doing it over here, we can't get those points. And he said, no, you can pull those in if you're doing a countermeasure.
I just think we need more information. I mean, again, we need to know who's using it. We need, and I know this sounds crazy, but pedestrian impact analysis are a thing these days. You can thank the city of Denton to start the trend, because I had to review them, and they're out there. But with who's using it, who are we paying for to use it, and how is it going to be maintained is really big, in my opinion. For us to say anything, we really need to know those things.
Oh, I agree. Kevin, is there any, it seems like we've gone down the board. I'm wondering if you have anything to add to it before.
Yeah, tons.
Okay.
No, we're obviously, the smaller the number, the bigger the price per, I do it based off of square footage, right? We're paying a premium for the, believe it or not, paying a premium the smaller we go. And we're at $99 a square foot. If we go option 1, we're at $74 a square foot if we go option 2, and we're at $87 a square foot if we go option 3. The good news is, the 20% is only $440,000 on the first one, if my math is right, and that's assuming that the escalation costs do what they're supposed to do over the next 4 years. So it comes back to the city spending $440,000 to get $2.2 million worth of new infrastructure minus what it would cost to maintain. So then it goes back to what's the odds of getting option 1 for grant compared to the other ones. And then if we're going at this small amount and there's no cap on the first grant opportunity, it sounds like we have a pretty good opportunity even if we went through option 1 while only spending just under $500,000 for us. I think it'd be pretty easy to pull data on what it cost us to maintain 22,200 square feet of sidewalk around the city. What we would spend on it, or what we spent on it over the last 5 years, and then we could amplify that for up-to-date cost. So that would be great to see. It's going to cost us something. We know that, but if at all possible, I don't know how long it would take. Seeing the study, I think, will be great. I don't, and just being as negative as I can be, I don't know if it will tell the entire story of what we can expect that, because it's an unknown at this point. I know personally, we walk the trails, we walk all the sidewalks. We illegally cross to go to 7 Mile every Saturday or Sunday morning for breakfast, right? So for us, as we like to explore the city, for us having a trail, it's not going to stop us from going that direction. It's not going to keep us from going the other way. But for us, just a family of 4, we use every possible sidewalk that we can. But I understand the math of where we are in our deficit. But if we are going to go and continue to go this route and use these funds, $440,000, while it seems like a lot, it seems like we're spending a higher per square footage, and I have a hard time getting past that. But considering what we're getting, the money that we're getting back if we're awarded the grant, I think the city's creative enough moving forward to maintain what we'll have to maintain for those connections. That's it.
So which one is that?
What?
Which option was that?
Option 1.
Okay.
I mean, I don't like, listen.
I got lost at you crossing.
Sorry, yeah.
So.
I mean, do I want option 2 to where minus their cost, we're only paying $60 a square foot for demo and adding a 12-foot sidewalk across the city? Yeah, but do I like the $4.67 million? No, but the fee on that one's still only $900,000. So you're adding $500K to that 20%. So you're still paying $1 million down payment for it, but you're getting all this new stuff. I don't think we need a 12-foot sidewalk going down Highland Village Road, but I do think that a connection is necessary for the direction that the city is going and the way our master plan puts it out. But I would like to see an updated, even if it's a survey, an updated idea of what the city thinks and kind of foresees what the sidewalk would impact them personally. I know we're probably only going to get a couple hundred people doing it, but that should help with pushing this board and council in that direction.
Well, there's engineering ways too to do actual mathematical calculations to come up with, because the surveys you can send to whoever to fill in but there are actual like traffic and impact analysis. There actually are scientific, mathematically based, whatever, to show us what based on history and all, what would happen. Versus I would rather something much more tangible with math than subjective to people sending it to all their friends to say, I want this.
Or not want this.
Or not want this.
Yes.
I'd like it rooted in facts and math.
Is there any other comments? If not, I've got, I think, 3 items here that I want to discuss to you based off of what I've heard in a direction.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for him? Go ahead.
All right, very good discussion. So what I'm hearing as next steps, which would be additional costs, because this is not currently in the HAF agreement, is an impact analysis for users. And what does that look like? And that's based off of data and how we make, and the board wants to make a decision based off of that data. What does that look like from a math perspective, from a pedestrian count perspective, from observations? Just what are the different tools to get that analysis done?
And where are they coming from?
Right. And then the other one is also a business impact analysis. What does that look like from potential capturing wallets and bringing them to the businesses along 407, tailing on what Paul had talked about, and what the initial part of the initial process was for this was to also have a positive economic impact into that area. And we know that majority, or at times, over 50% of the users in our park system are from people outside that use our park system. So we know that just on basic ground data from companies that provide information for us. So we know that people are coming in. What does that look like in terms of impacting the businesses? Can they provide data that will at least project an investment, and will it increase revenue? And then from an M&O cost, end of useful life. That's what we're talking about. It's not the mowing and the blowing. It's the actual replacement concrete. What does that look like? And how much does that cost? And when can we expect that reoccurring replacement, that cycle? Is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? Is it 20 years? And bringing all that information together and presenting it to the board. That's what I feel like I'm hearing before we go anywhere on the side of making a decision for a grant today. Is that a correct assessment?
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so I had that in the agenda briefing, additional costs, and we'll bring back to the board. So what we'll do is I'll get with Scott, or Scott will talk to HAF, and we'll see what those additional costs are in addition to the task order. And be quite honest with you, I'll just bring the task order here and have you look at it and make sure that we're capturing everything.
I feel like we've looked at this several times and we've slowed it down, and I think appropriately so that we have a good feel for what it's actually going to cost us. I think that's being responsible, and we need to do this. So in light of that, I would like to know how much we have already spent on this project, putting just the information together, and so that we just don't go overboard here asking for information, right? I think what we've asked for tonight, some impact analysis, I think those are very important to our decision, but I want us to be aware of what has been spent thus far and where we're going.
So what I'll do, if it's okay, is I can put that in an email, what the contract amount was. It's been a minute since I provided that information and what's been spent to date.
Okay,
Sound good?
please do.
Very good.
Okay. In preparation for the next meeting, bring in a task order for these additional services. And these are all just what if the next step.
Right.
Does the board want to move forward with this? And this is what it looks like. This is the task, and this is a deliverable for that specific task. Now, did I miss anything in those 3? Is there anything else that should be added?
No, I think you captured it. It's just,
Okay.
we've got to be very careful with all of our pennies, and especially if the 4B money it gets rearranged, we have to be even more careful with our pennies.
Correct. And then there's also, and I won't go into it here, but there's the priority list that we identified early on that was going to be a part of this if it moved forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
To know that.
So for the next meeting, I'll also bring that back
Please.
with the cost that will have the opinion of probable construction cost and all information for the project as a whole, timelines, things like that. Okay.
Brian, Scott had the contract here. The contract with HAT is for $136,900. And we're still within that scope, but we probably, percentage-wise, how?
We're at 95%.
Okay.
I mean, we anticipated.
Can you step up to the mic? Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, build to date, we build 95%. With this meeting tonight, that's where we're at. It would be really addressing any outlying questions, concerns from staff, and then one more meeting, essentially.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'll add the priority trails to that at the next meeting as well, the priority list.
Yeah, because we had 5, right?
I'll send an email update.
Well, I know. but
From
we went-
memory, Phil, how many?
Yeah, okay, it was 5, but we didn't do the
No.
bike because Scott's going to pick it up in some of his road
I
projects.
think we had top 3.
Yeah, we
I
had,
know of.
yeah,
yes.
and we went on our thing and we've ranked them, so we've taken a lot of time to come up with that 3 to 5 list that we've talked about. So, and that's again
So
where we,
essentially what we're asking for is a summary of where those are in conjunction with this so we can make a decision.
Correct.
again
okay.
with operation and maintenance, and if bonds are going to be required to pay for any of them, if new bonds are going to be required, because that's a big thing because we've talked about in council on 4B stuff. So if we need future bonds, that's a big deal.
Correct. Got it. You are welcome.
I would like to express our gratitude to HAF for the presentation. Thank you for putting that together and joining us tonight and
Yes.
explaining everything.
Thank you.
so
It
much.
was
Appreciate
good.
the
It's just-
information. Thank you.
It's a lot to take in when
Okay.
we don't have money to spend.
Thank you for that. And next item is the status reports on current projects and discussion of future agenda items. Anybody have anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I think the only thing I had, we've really kind of went over it in the last conversation with you about summarizing where we are with everything and putting forth what our priority projects with this and getting an idea where we stand with those and where we're going and what kind of timeline we have. So that's kind of the discussion I'd like to bring forth next time if we can, or soon.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else have anything? Well, thank you all, and we will adjourn this meeting at 7:40.